Alrighty, guys, we have so many amazing keyboards out there. But what is the best ROG keyboard, right? What is the best keyboard? That's I don't know if that's a linear question where you can just say, oh, this is the best for everything. But Whitson, I'm gonna tell you
It's
my
true.
favorite right out of the gates. My favorite is the Azoth X.
Oh, really?
It's won me over.
Surprised.
It's
Didn't
won me
expect that.
over. Yeah, I know. I know. Flare 2
Wow, so
animate.
you're finally away from the numpad.
I'm I
Jake has been using a keyboard that we don't even sell anymore because he's like so attached to the numpad.
the numpad, but all that extra mouse room for Doom has been too nice.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I've been saying for like 4 years, Jake.
I
Okay.
know. I'm converted.
All right.
Okay.
Let's talk about this because you bring up a good point. A lot of people will ask us what's the best keyboard, what's the best this, what's the best setting for, and the answer ultimately is there is no one best thing for everyone. That's why we make multiple keyboards. Some of it's about pricing, right? It's different keyboards for different budgets, but it also gives keyboards for different types of preferences. Jake wants a numpad. I don't. This person wants this. This person wants this kind of switch. So the real question is, what is the best keyboard for you? And today we are going to help you decide. And like Jake said, he's got a whole stack of keyboards that we're going to show off. But I want to start by talking about some of the things that are going to separate these keyboards from each other, what to look for in a keyboard. And the first thing is size
The
and
form
layout,
factor. Yeah.
kind of like we were talking about. So I think Jake put together an image for me. Thank you, Jake, for this. There are many different sizes of keyboards. And lately, as this has become more of a thing, right? Shrinking keyboards down to various sizes, the naming scheme tends to go by either the number of keys on it or a percentage value. So the top left here, you'll see this ROG Strix Scope 2. That is what we would call a full-size keyboard. Like when you think of a keyboard in your head, that's probably what you think of. It's got the number pad. It's got that row in the middle with the arrow keys and like insert, delete, all that stuff. It's got the function row along the top. That is a full-size keyboard or a 100% keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can shrink it down and take away certain keys that maybe you don't use very often, especially like some of those keys were developed, in the 80s when we used things like print screen and insert or whatever, which are not as common these days. So we have, well, actually, I'll jump. The kind of next most popular one was TKL or 10 keyless, which is what you see on the bottom left, the ROG Strix Scope RX TKL. That's where you just take away the numpad. Everything else the same, you just take away the numpad, which for people who don't use the numpad is great. It gives you a little bit more space for your mousing hand. You still get a bunch of keys. That's nice. And then, we kind of ran into the situation where we have people like Jake who really want the numpad, but also want to save space. And so what they did was kind of took out a lot of that middle section. You still have the arrow keys, but insert, delete, a lot of those are gone or moved, and then they kind of scrunch the keyboard together. So this middle option on the left here is a 96% keyboard. It's almost 100%, but they took away a few keys and then shrunk down a lot of that dead space to make it really efficient. That is a great layout if you still need the numpad, but you want a little bit of extra space on your desk. So the Strix Scope 296 wireless is a really kind of cool, unique approach to that. And then you've got really compact options like the Azoth and the Falchion on the left. So or on the right. So we're gonna talk about all of those in more detail, those models. But this is the first thing you need to decide: is how many keys do I need? Right? The Azoth still has those function keys along the top. The Falchion does not, or it hides them. You can use the function key and the number keys to access them. So you can still have those keys. They're just hidden behind another layer. So some people like really compact stuff and using layers to access those extra functions. Some people don't. I like having the function keys. I assign them to all kinds of random crap.
Same.
So size. That is the first thing you need to decide. We had a question in chat. Someone said, what's the best keyboard for someone with small hands? So unlike mice, where your hand shape will determine what kind of mouse is best for you, I don't think that necessarily applies as much with keyboards, because all of these keyboards, despite their different sizes, have the same key spacing. The keys are the keycaps are the same size and they're spaced out the same amount. So if you have smaller hands, ultimately just typing text on a Falchion is going to feel the same as typing on a Strix Scope 2, like a 75% versus 100% keyboard. It's going to feel the same. So, I don't think that that necessarily makes a huge difference. You may want, I mean, you may feel that one is better for you, but I think that's more personal preference than having to do with hand size. Jake and I have two very different hand sizes, and I don't think either of us have ever complained about a keyboard
No,
feeling too small or too big for our fingers.
never. It's more about the switches that I like and the amount of force that I want for the switches to press.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about switch type. Let's open up that page. So, mechanical keyboards have literal physical switches in them. And this is what the switches look like if you haven't seen them before. That's what's underneath those keycaps. And there are a number of different types of switches. And then there are different families of switches within those types. So these are our ROG NX switches. They are very similar to Cherry MX switches. They are full-on mechanical switches. There's a metal leaf in there. When you press it down, it creates a point of contact, which drives an electrical current through the board of the keyboard, right?
Yep.
But you see these different colors of the stems up here. Each of those are going to feel different. Browns are typically what we call tactile. They have a little bit of a bump in them, so you can kind of feel when you press the key down. Blues are clicky, so they're very tactile, and they make a loud clicking sound. A lot of people really like that. They're kind of reminiscent of old school keyboards. And reds are linear. They just press down, no bump. Very popular among gamers because they just give you that super smooth feel. And then these on the right are our NX Snow and NX Storm switches. So they are versions that we have kind of improved even further for clicky and linear operation. But there are this switch type has been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
Very long time. It kind of came out of fashion with membrane keyboards. And now it's back into fashion. And then we started developing on top of that. Like, how can we make these old school mechanical switches even better, at least for some people? That is where we went to our RX optical switches. So these look a little bit different. First of all, instead of one cross stem coming out of the middle, these have a kind of square stem with 4 holes in the middle. And the keycap sinks into that. So it's a little bit more of a proprietary switch design. But what it gives you is a more stable kind of keystroke because instead of pressing down in the middle, there's no wobble. It presses down evenly on all 4 sides. The other thing that's special about our RX switches is that they're optical. So instead of having that metal leaf that rubs and makes contact, it's a laser shining through. And as the switch goes down, it will block the laser.
And that's the signal. Yep.
Yes, sending the signal for a keystroke. That makes it very, very fast. It reduces a point of wear on the switch, which is important to some people. It's pretty cool. I do like this type of switch. And we also have a low profile version, as you can see in the middle there. And there are red and blue versions. So you still have a choice for like your key feel. But that's the optical switch. And then recently, the new kid on the block is HFX, also called Hall switches, magnetic switches. These use a magnet inside the switch to determine whether the key is being pressed. And this offers a few advantages. First of all, it's lightning fast, kind of like that laser, but it also allows you to customize the actuation point inside the switch. So different switches, even right? It's really cool. So different switches can have different, what we call actuation points, right? So if it's 4 millimeters of movement on the switch, typically a lot of switches will actuate, you'll actually register a keystroke at that 2 millimeter point. So you don't have to press them down all the way. You just need to press them down 2 millimeters. Certain switches designed for gaming might have a higher actuation point. So it actuates quicker as you're pressing it down, because again, in gaming, like those lightning quick response times matter. But with Hall switches, it's customizable. You can say, I want the actuation point up here, or I want it down here. And you can change it on the fly. So when you're gaming, you can have a really high actuation point. So it's really quick. And when you're maybe typing a long paper for school or an article like we do, you could move that actuation point down. If you're going to be kind of hitting it with a bit more force, you want less accidental keystrokes. Really cool feature on those new HFX switches. And we have a few keyboards that are now using these, including one we just announced, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
And someone was asking if we're going to talk about the Falcata today. Yes, we will. We'll get to that a bit later.
Oh, yes. That's going to be the last keyboard we talk about because it's the newest family. We're going to be going through all the 4 families. It sounds like a
Harry Potter
thing, but you know, the 4. Or Harry Potter. My family just finished. My kids just finished the first 2 books.
Oh, nice.
So Pandorian Gray says, which would you say is the best of all worlds, performance and cost? I would think magnets are cheaper than lasers. Not necessarily. There are a number of different kind of things that can go into the cost of these. And again, the cost is ultimately you have to take into account the cost of the entire keyboard because you're not usually just choosing one type of switch. You're also choosing the switch based and the features of the keyboard and the size and like all of these things in tandem. And you're not necessarily going to have every single combination of factors. I mean, I think Hall is what most people would currently consider the best in the sense that it is the most feature rich. But the opticals are also really great, give you at least some of those benefits for gaming. The advantage of some of the like the NX switches or Cherry MX switches, the older style, those are because they've been around for so long, those are have the highest compatibility with different types of keycaps and being able to swap in other types of switches. Like there are these now boutique manufacturers that are making like Zelio switches, which have a bigger tactile bump, or like the Holy Pandas, which have this really strong bump at the very top of the keys, you know, things like that. And if you're using like an NX or MX switch, you can swap in some of those more boutique switches on a hot swappable keyboard yourself. You wouldn't necessarily be able to do that with keyboards that use different pin types because they have a different switch. So
Okay.
it really does depend on a lot of different things.
So hot swappable switches is another feature that you can consider with your keyboard, right? That's one thing.
Yeah, which is very cool because, you know, a lot of times like I'll get a if you like one of those boutique switches, you could swap those in yourself, but sometimes you might just buy a keyboard and decide you don't like that switch type as much. So Ice Vixen is saying, you know, is there different resistance when you press? Yes, different switch types also have a different resistance. A lot of those red switches or a lot of linear switches might have lighter resistance, again, for really quick actuation during gaming. Let's say I buy a keyboard with the red switches and I say, you know, linears are not really for me. I think I actually need a little bit more resistance, a little bit more of that tactility. I could pop out all those red switches, buy some brown switches online, and pop them in. And I have done that before because that is actually how I feel. I prefer browns.
I agree with that, but also the other nice thing to that is if an individual switch dies, which can happen, right?
Oh,
You're not
yes.
replacing the whole keyboard, you're replacing a single switch. You can even take it off one of those dead keys if you don't use them, like page up or something. Like
Oh, I've done
if you
that.
yeah, me too, right? It's just like, oh no, my F key died. Pay respects. Let me go grab the page up key and swap it out and I'm good, right? And I'm not gonna miss that page up key. I don't care about that key.
Yeah.
Like,
Amazing for repairability. Yeah, and
yeah.
that you don't have to buy new switches just because one starts chattering or misbehaving or whatever. Because
Right.
yeah, like these are generally more durable than a lot of like membrane keyboards. They're rated for a very long lifespan, a
Millions.
lot of presses.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can get a fleck of dust in there or something. It does happen. It doesn't happen often, but it can happen. And that hot swappability is a game changer.
It
for
is.
that.
What about
So
keycaps?
not all of our keyboards are hot swap,
True.
but many of them are. We're starting to do more and more of those. So again, we'll
Yes.
talk about those features as we go through. Right now, we're just talking about
General.
the kinds of features that you might want to look for. Wired versus wireless is also a big one. Wired keyboards
That's
still
true.
around.
Yeah, my Flare 2 Anime is a keyboard that I'm very fond of, right? It's not a super recent keyboard we made, probably 2 years old or so, but it is a wired keyboard, but that's also wired keyboards. One of the advantages you get out of that is you get the extra USB-C port off of it. I always like putting my mouse dongle right on that
Sometimes,
because
yeah.
it's really close, right? So the wired keyboard typically has two, at least most of ours do. But this has that the enemy matrix display in the top right corner, so it needs the power for that. So wireless wouldn't really work out. It would use a little bit too much
You
power. I think
could,
the
but
battery
it would probably use it would. Yeah, but I
wouldn't
mean, we do it on
last.
the Azoth.
That's true.
Right? So the Azoth has that little OLED display.
Yeah.
Now that said, for me, I care a lot about wireless mouse. I will not use a wired mouse ever again in my life
No.
if I can help it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Because you move it around so much. I don't want that drag from the cord. But with a keyboard, because you don't move it around, I actually leave mine plugged in all the time, even though it's wireless. Like it just, and then that way I don't have to worry about charging the battery. I got a cool cord, so it looks all cool on my desk. It's not like, doesn't feel like clutter. It feels like part of the, but you can, again, you can decide those things. Okay. Let's keep moving on. So yeah, obviously you've got other features like the RGB or that OLED screen that we talked about, different dampening layers in some of our keyboards. But let's start talking about some of these models. And I want us to talk about start by talking about our oldest family, which is the ROG Strix Scope series. These are what I would call kind of our solid workhorse mid-range keyboards for the widest variety of gamers. Like if you're not necessarily sure what you want, this is a good place to start looking. This is kind of the the best keyboard in the Strix Scope lineup right now, I would say, just in
96. Yeah.
terms of overall features and kind of bang for your buck. This is the Strix Scope 296 wireless. This is that one we talked about earlier where they kind of scrunched it down. It's a 96% keyboard. So you got that numpad
Mhm.
like Jake loves, but you're missing a couple key. They moved the insert, delete, page up, page down up to the top. They got rid of like print screen and some of those others. Again, they got rid of a couple keys so that they could
Yeah.
get rid of the dead space, scrunch it all together. You see the arrow keys kind of overlap with the right shift and control. I know that bothers some people who really like to use right shift. They don't like it when that key shrinks. I have never used right shift in my entire life, so this would not bother me. But
I'm weird. I use right control, and the spacing there is something that was, yeah, I'm used to it going to here, not to here. So that was something
oh,
that
it's kind of threw
actually
you off a
like
little
threw
bit.
me off, and something that also was an adjustment for me is just the lack of the spacing between escape and F1, F4, and
Mm-hmm.
F5. Right, small little things, but once you get used to it, it's just like that extra real estate for your mouse is so worth it.
So
Because
nice.
can we just, let me just do a side by side with a full size keyboard since this is a
Yeah. Grab a
96.
full size.
Like that's relevant, right? That's not like a huge difference, but when it comes to your mouse movements, that makes all the difference in the world, let me tell you. And I'm not losing the
Particularly for
numpad.
ergonomics, because you could reach your hand out farther, but then you're like doing this, which just isn't comfortable. And when you're
No,
playing
yeah,
like a competitive first person shooter for long periods of time,
yeah.
you want as much mousing space as you can get.
That's the whole logic there. That was the Flare 2 Animate, the full size one there.
Yeah. So that one is not. It's a little bit older. I don't think we still sell it in most regions anymore. The Flare 2 Animate, but that's the full size keyboard Jake has on hand, so it's a good comparison. Now, the Strix Scope series does have some full size 100%
Yep.
options like that. I don't think they're. Some of those might be end of life, but you will see some Strix Scope models still kind of floating around at some retailers, depending on your region and what's in stock and things like that. And some of them may be even more affordable than the rest of our lineup. So if you're looking for a good deal, you might be able to grab one of those older Strix Scope models. The other Strix Scope model that I think is still considered current is the Strix Scope RX TKL Wireless Deluxe. So Jake does not have this one on hand, but I think we can show it. So this is a 10 keyless, so it doesn't have the number pad and it has that full middle row. So you still get some size, like some space savings. I think this one is a little bit more affordable than the
I believe
Scope
so.
296 wireless because it's a little bit older. Um, and it has RX switches on it, those ones with the laser. So that's personal preference. But if you like the optical switches, that has it. This is a good like workhorse keyboard. It's going to give you a lot of bang for your buck.
Right. So
Got
just
tri-mode connectivity, so you can use it wired or wireless or Bluetooth. If you happen to, I wouldn't use Bluetooth if you're gaming. I would use the
there's
dongle.
latency, a lot of
Bluetooth,
latency.
a lot of latency with Bluetooth, but it is an option if you were to like take it with you or you wanted to like use it with a laptop downstairs to just like do some typing. You could totally do that. Like we give you that option.
Home theater
But for
PC
gaming,
on airplane, those kind of things, it's fine.
mhm.
Yeah. That's why we always have the option there. One of the key differences is the hot swappable switches on the 96. I believe
Yes.
the TKL does not have that. The 96
No,
does.
I don't think any of our RX keyboards are hot swappable. I
Yeah,
don't
I don't think
think,
so.
but
So
the NX ones are going to be hot swappable. So that's an
yeah,
advantage of the Scope 296 wireless. Someone says, does it come with red or blue switches? Usually, you can find
either
these
or,
keyboards with both.
either
So
or.
when you
Yeah.
go to the retailer page, you got to check the little like selection box and make sure you're selecting the right type of switch.
Yep.
And again, with some of these keyboards that are a little bit older, you may find that certain switches are no longer in stock at your retailers. So just make sure that you look at multiple retailers because some may have one switch type and some may have another.
Mhm.
And then, if you can't find the ones you want, maybe buy a hot swappable keyboard and swap in the ones you want. So that is the Strix Scope series. Again, those are the main two in our current lineup. Should give you an idea of what the larger family offers. Now, let's move on to something even more compact. Our ROG Falchion series is designed, these are our smallest keyboards, really compact for lots of space on your desk, also really great for travel. So this is the Falchion Ace HFX. Is that right, Jake?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So a few years ago, we came out with just the standard ROG Falchion, and it basically looked almost exactly like this. Compact keyboard. Again, you can use the function key to like create more layers and use some of those keys that have disappeared from this layout. But It's really compact, so you can still get lots of space on your desk. We have a touch bar on the back there that you can use for like volume or for some other features that you can customize in Armory Crate. The regular Falchion used Cherry MX switches, uh, but the Falchion Ace HFX, which Jake has here, is a bit more esports focused. It has those Hall magnetic switches that we talked about. So it's got the customizable actuation. It's got our new rapid trigger and speed tap features. So again, like it's all about fast, 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 right? 5 layers of dampening foam on this. So it is a bit of a higher end feel than the original ROG Falchion. But a lot of its features are really designed for like competitive play.
It's a nice
And then
keyboard.
it's really nice. If you like that compact size, I like that compact size for like my travel keyboard because when I go to Taiwan or when I go to Michigan to visit my family for 2 weeks and I'm still working, I don't want to just type on my laptop keyboard the whole time. I want to have a real keyboard with me, and I can bring the ROG Falchion with me because it's so compact and it fits in my bag so well. And I'll just set that up with my laptop and I'll type on that. Yeah, those are the dampening stuff, which the dampening foam and stuff just gives it that more premium feel. Like you get
And
less
sound.
echo and
Yeah.
ping as you're typing, and it because it's not just about the switch. The switch is not the only thing that contributes to the feel
Correct.
of the typing. Keycaps also matter. The material that the keycaps are made out of, the materials that the case is made out of, the different layers of dampening foam, all of that stuff matters. And we'll talk about that a bit more when we get to the Azoth in a minute.
I love these switches. Like, I really want to be on all Hall effect switches. They feel so good. They really do.
They're nice. Waffle Donut says so that features like speed tap are bannable in some games. How do you feel about that? I feel like it is up to the game makers to decide what they do and do not allow in their games. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
We offer that feature for gamers who want to use it in games where it's allowed. Yeah, we make the tools, and it's up to you guys and the game developers and the esports leagues and all of that stuff to decide what they do and don't want to allow. That's how games are played. And if you're just doing it on your own, you want to use it for Doom and single player, you can do that, right? Like,
very true.
Yeah. So the other keyboard in the Falchion family is the Falchion RX low profile. This one's a bit different from the others. The others all use that very, very similar design, but the Falchion low profile uses our special low profile switches. So it's super slim, really, really great for travel. Like I talked about, if you want to bring a keyboard with you because you're traveling on the road or working on the road, that really slim profile makes it great for slipping into a bag. A lot of the same features as the standard Falchion, just in a slightly different form factor that I really dig. I meant to steal this from Jake, but he sent it back to the office.
They asked for it back. Sorry.
Oh, they actually asked for it? Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's okay. A lot of times they don't ask for it.
It's
we
true.
have to remind, we have this. We send it back. Yeah, it does look pretty in white. And so a lot of these keyboards are available in black and white. Some of them are just black or just like silver. But when you go onto retailers and start looking at some of this stuff, you'll find that a lot of them are available in both black and white to match your setup. This one is just white, though. The low profile.
Yeah, so low profile is like, it's a lot thinner, honestly. I did have it here. We unboxed it probably a year ago.
Yeah, you can go back and find that episode in our archives.
But this is the regular one, which is the Hall effects, the newest one.
That's the Hall effect one.
Yeah, which I'm a big fan of. I brought this to Taiwan for a reason.
Like I said, perfect for travel.
Yeah.
All right. So one that, oops, my phone's not on silent. Sorry, guys.
We didn't even hear it. Didn't even hear it.
So unprofessional of me. All right. The next family is my favorite family. This is the ROG Azoth, and I forgot you have one of these because I have the other two at my house.
Yeah.
So this is what Jake's looks like. Here's what mine is. The standard ROG Azoth does not have these keycaps. It's usually more of a standard black and gray color scheme, but I swapped on my own keycaps to it because this keyboard was really made for keyboard enthusiasts. The Azoth series was designed for people who want a really premium keyboard with a lot of DIY friendly features, because there's a big keyboard community of people who like to build their own keyboards or customize their own keyboards. This was kind of made for them, or people who are kind of entering into that space.
Yeah, I've been considering changing out my my switches, but these keycaps are stock on the Azoth X.
Those are the Azoth X's standard keycaps.
These
The
are
regular
stock.
Azoth comes with black and gray keycaps. But all of our Azoth models feature more metal in the housing, varying degrees of metal in the case, depending on the model you get, which gives it this kind of heft. Maybe less ideal for putting in a backpack and traveling because it's a little bit heavier, but a lot of people really like that. It feels really stable and
It
premium
does.
when it's on your desk. So mine just lives on my desk. It is more compact though. We got rid of the number pad and a lot of that middle row. So this is more of like a 75% keyboard, I think. Again, multiple layers of dampening foam for that really premium key feel, pre-lubed, hot swappable NX switches so you can put in whatever you want. That OLED screen in the corner gives you can put cool animations there. You can get different like system stats or use like it for changing music tracks, things like that. The Azoth X that Jake is holding, besides the baller keycaps on it, the main difference with that model is that it has a south-facing PCB inside, which has better compatibility with certain types of keycaps if you plan on switching them out. But the biggest change is the keycaps that it comes with. I found that I didn't have any problems switching out cherry profile keycaps and switches on my Azoth, but for certain types, a south-facing PCB layout may be better. So this does have that for those people. So this Azoth X, the X is the newest one, but it is not the highest end one. The highest end Azoth, the highest end keyboard we offer is the ROG Azoth Extreme. That is when we launched at Computex last year. It is similar to these two, but it has a color OLED screen. It has a carbon fiber positioning plate, which again just gives it slightly different key feel, really rigid. It has an adjustable gasket mount, which is really cool. There's a switch on the back that you can flick to give the keyboard a little bit more give. So it's like a little bit squishier as you type or a little bit firmer as you type. You can flip between those two options. Yeah, I know. It's really cool. Comes with a wrist rest, which feels really nice. This is the best typing feel that you can get from a gaming keyboard, in my opinion. Yeah, there are all those layers. I actually have this one up here and I really should be using it, but I haven't swapped all of my switches and stuff into it yet.
It is a chore.
It is so nice. This is the cream of the crop. If you want like the absolute most ballin' keyboard that ROG offers, this is it. I said that at the beginning of the show that there is no best keyboard for everyone, but this is the best key. This is the highest end keyboard we offer in that sense.
It would go real nice with my Harpace Extreme, but it's okay. I love my Azoth X.
I mean,
no,
fair. It is nice. So, the final keyboard, not necessarily the last keyboard that we offer, but the final keyboard of like really our current lineup that we're focusing on is the one that we just announced. You guys, if you watched last week, you probably heard about this. This is the ROG Falcata. This is not available to purchase just yet, but it's coming very soon. I believe this is on track to ship in July. This is a ergonomic split keyboard with lots of adjustable ergonomics. So those little feet on the bottom, you can unscrew them and put them in different parts of the keyboard to change like the angle and the tilt to kind of fit how you want your keyboard to be set up. And this uses our HFX magnetic switches also. So you get all of the benefits of that for both esport play and just, this actually uses our version 2 of those HFX switches, which actually split. Yeah. So one of the things that we did, and you might be able to, oh no, the product page doesn't have all those animations yet, but one of the things we did is that stem, no matter how you make that stem, it can still have some wobble. And so one thing we did is we split the stem in two so that when you wobble, that vibration, those little mini vibrations go through the top half and then stop. They don't transfer to the bottom half of the stem. So the switches feel even more stable with less wobble than before. Really cool little update we made to those switches, but it still has all of the other benefits. The other feature that we put on this is called zone mode, which turns off a lot of non-essential functions for like the best possible performance, because this is kind of designed with esports in mind. So if you want the absolute minimum button to pixel latency, like you can turn on zone mode and you're ready to game.
Very cool.
This is our keyboard lineup mostly right now. We do have even more keyboards coming on the horizon, I'm sure. Our peripherals team has been on an absolute tear lately, bringing out awesome peripherals. And so this is just the beginning of the really cool stuff coming down the pipe. When does the new Azoth 2 Extreme come out with dual M.2 in the keyboard? That would be interesting. No plans for that currently, but that would be pretty cool. You can like use it like an SD card slot, just put in drives.
That
I
would
could
be
dig
cool.
it.
I like
I
it.
could dig it. I don't know if that'll happen. That's a pretty niche feature, but I like it.
You can dream.
We can always dream. But yes, so that is our lineup, and that is it for our main topic today, guys. But as always, this is just part of our show. If you want to see the full ROG Pulse stream, you can tune in live every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. During that show, we have our main topic, but we also do giveaways. We talk about games. We answer your questions, even if it's not about the main topic, all kinds of other stuff. So follow, subscribe, all that stuff if you want to see the full show. And to see even more awesome ROG gear, you can follow and subscribe to Watch Jake play with all of this gear. He's playing Doom the Dark Ages right now.
Oh, yeah.
With that new Azoth X.
Mm-hmm.
Glorious.
Heart Base Extreme.
Glorious.
It's a good life.
Oh, yeah. So he streams on Tuesdays and Fridays here using ROG gear. So with that in mind, we will see you guys next time.